The digital landscape has completely transformed the way we consume information, turning global communication into an instantaneous exchange of ideas, news, and entertainment. However, this interconnected universe hides a darker, much more sinister side that operates beneath the surface of our everyday scrolling habits. For years, public figures have faced the inevitable waves of public scrutiny, criticism, and standard celebrity gossip, which usually fades as quickly as the next big headline arrives. Yet, every so often, a phenomenon emerges that defies the typical patterns of internet commentary, evolving instead into something deeply troubling, highly organized, and exceptionally malicious. When we look at the modern media landscape, few individuals have occupied the center of public fascination, quite like the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Their journey from a fairy tale royal wedding to their dramatic departure from traditional senior royal duties has been documented by every major news outlet across the globe. But while mainstream television and traditional print journalism have spent countless hours dissecting their every move, a much more insidious reality was quietly unfolding in the vast, largely unregulated world of social media platforms. For an extended period, anyone observing the online discourse surrounding the couple noticed an astonishingly dense concentration of hostility, criticism, and pure venom directed at them, particularly focusing on the Duchess. It seemed as though an entire universe of negativity had manifested out of nowhere, blanketing the internet with harsh narratives, personal insults, and relentless waves of digital condemnation that never seemed to take a break to the casual observer. This immense volume of online negativity looked like nothing more than the organic, albeit highly polarized, opinions of ordinary, everyday internet users expressing their personal disapproval. In the chaotic realm of public forums, it is easy to assume that millions of random voices are simply participating in a collective conversation, driven by their own personal biases or casual observations of current events. We often tell ourselves that public figures must accept this kind of widespread noise as an unfortunate byproduct of their immense global fame and high-profile status. But as the sheer scale of the hostility continued to escalate, a few observant researchers and media investigators began to notice strange patterns that did not align with natural human behavior. The timing of the posts, the repetitive nature of the specific phrases used, and the sudden coordination of narratives suggested that something far more deliberate was taking place behind the digital curtain. This was not just a collection of random individuals sharing their thoughts on a Friday afternoon, but rather a structural phenomenon that required closer scientific examination. If you find yourself fascinated by the hidden forces that shape our digital world and want to uncover the deeper truths behind the major headlines that dominate our screens, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel right now so you never miss an update on our ongoing investigations. By joining us, you help support the deep-diving journalism needed to unravel these complex, modern mysteries. The initial breakthroughs into understanding this digital anomaly came when independent investigative organizations decided to look past the surface-level comments and actually analyze the underlying raw data of these social media interactions. One of the most prominent groups to step forward into this space was an advanced analytics service dedicated to tracking disinformation, inauthentic behavior, and targeted harassment campaigns across major networking platforms. When their data scientists began pulling hundreds of thousands of individual posts, tracking timestamps, and mapping out user relationships, they expected to find a broad and disorganized web of disgruntled internet users scattered all across the world. Instead, what the hard numbers revealed was deeply shocking and completely upended the prevailing narrative surrounding the online treatment of the royal couple. The massive mountain of digital vitriol that had seemed so widespread and democratic was not the work of an angry global populace at all. Rather, the analytics pointed toward a highly concentrated, incredibly disciplined, and remarkably small group of operators who were single-handedly driving the vast majority of the negative narrative. This revelation completely shifted the conversation from one about random celebrity gossip to one about potential manipulation, psychological warfare, and the weaponization of modern social media networks. Wikipedia, as investigators looked closer at the specific accounts responsible for this overwhelming wave of negativity, they discovered an intricate structure designed to maximize reach while minimizing direct visibility. The data demonstrated that a tiny fraction of highly active accounts was responsible for generating an unbelievable percentage of the most hateful content, which was then systematically amplified by a secondary ring of supportive profiles. This meant that a very small group of people could successfully create the illusion of a massive, unified public movement, effectively tricking both the public and mainstream media outlets into believing that the entire internet had turned against the Duchess. The sophistication of this operation went far beyond simple trolling, utilizing clever techniques to evade automated detection systems, bypass platform security guidelines, and maintain an uninterrupted stream of coordinated hostility. It raised profound questions about the vulnerability of our digital spaces and how easily public perception can be artificially manufactured by hidden entities working toward an unspoken agenda. As we prepare to delve deeper into the exact numbers, the specific tactics used, and the incredible findings of this landmark investigation, the true mystery remains centered on who exactly was pulling the strings behind these accounts, and what kind of environment could allow such a relentless campaign to thrive in the first place. The depth of the investigation into this targeted digital phenomenon revealed structural anomalies that stunned even the most experienced data scientists and media observers. When Christopher Bowsey and his team at Bot Sentinel finalized their initial comprehensive report, the statistics they brought forward were nothing short of staggering. They discovered that an astonishing 70% of the most vitriolic, highly hateful, and persistently abusive content directed at Meghan Markle and Prince Harry originated from a tightly knit cluster of just 83 individual Twitter accounts. To put this into perspective, these 83 accounts were not just casually posting sporadic negative thoughts. They were operating as a highly coordinated network, generating thousands of pieces of content that reached an estimated potential audience of over 17 million unique users. This tiny cadre of digital assassins had successfully hijacked the public algorithm, ensuring that whenever a regular internet user searched for news regarding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, their screens would inevitably be flooded with artificially manufactured hostility. The sheer efficiency of this small network completely shattered the illusion that public opinion on social media is an organic reflection of human sentiment, proving instead that a dedicated group of highly active individuals can simulate a massive, unstoppable wave of public outrage. As researchers scrutinized the behavior of these specific 83 accounts, they uncovered a level of tactical sophistication that mirrored professional disinformation campaigns rather than amateur internet trolling. These profiles did not operate in isolation. They worked in a flawless, synchronized harmony designed to exploit the specific mechanics of social media algorithms. When one primary account posted a particularly malicious narrative or a heavily manipulated piece of media, the other accounts within the network would immediately engage with it. They would retweet, reply, and share the post within seconds of its publication, signaling to the platform's automated algorithms that this specific piece of content was rapidly gaining traction and generating high user engagement. Consequently, the platform system would automatically elevate the post, pushing it onto the feeds of millions of unsuspecting users who had no connection to the original source. Furthermore, the network utilized a clever strategy of rotating primary accounts to avoid automated bans and detection, ensuring that if one profile was temporarily restricted for violating safety guidelines, several others were ready to instantly step into the vacuum and maintain the momentum of the campaign. The content itself was meticulously crafted to maximize emotional damage and spark widespread outrage, shifting away from standard criticisms of royal protocol toward deeply personalized, highly malicious character assassination. The investigators categorized the output into distinct narrative pillars, each designed to strip away the humanity of the royal couple and construct an entirely villainous public persona. Photos were cropped out of context, old video clips were subtly altered or slowed down to imply negative traits, and entirely fabricated stories regarding the couple's private life were presented as absolute facts. What made this campaign especially dangerous was its longevity and unyielding consistency. This was not a short-lived reaction to a specific interview or a singular public appearance. Instead, it was an ongoing daily barrage that persisted week after week, month after month, maintaining a constant state of high-intensity digital warfare. The primary objective appeared to be the creation of a totally toxic digital ecosystem, where any positive or neutral discussion surrounding the Sussexes would be immediately overwhelmed and silenced by an aggressive wall of negativity. The plot thickened significantly when the investigators themselves became the primary targets of the very network they were attempting to analyze. As soon as Christopher Bowsey publicly announced that his firm was conducting a formal data analysis into the unusual patterns of hostility surrounding Meghan Markle, the digital network instantly weaponized its resources against him and his organization. Within hours, the 83 core accounts and their secondary rings of amplification shifted their focus, launching a massive, coordinated counteroffensive designed to discredit the investigation before its findings could reach the mainstream media. Bowsey's personal notification feeds were inundated with thousands of abusive messages, death threats, and highly coordinated attempts to hack his private accounts and corporate security systems. False reports were systematically filed against his official profile in a desperate attempt to have his platform privileges revoked, and completely fabricated allegations regarding his professional credentials and financial motivations were circulated across the internet. This aggressive, immediate retaliation provided absolute confirmation to the research team that they were not dealing with casual, disconnected individuals, but rather with a highly defensive, organized entity that was fiercely protective of its operational anonymity. This unprecedented level of backlash turned the investigation into a dangerous game of digital cat and mouse, highlighting the immense personal and professional risks faced by modern internet researchers who dare to expose the mechanics of online manipulation. For Bowsey, receiving an endless stream of targeted hate became an everyday reality of his professional life, forcing him to implement advanced security protocols just to protect his team and ensure the continuous operation of his analytics firm. The fact that an independent researcher could face such intense, systematic harassment simply for looking at public data underscored the terrifying power of these hidden digital networks. They operated with a sense of complete impunity, confident that the vastness of the internet and the slow response times of platform moderation teams would protect them from facing any real-world consequences. The sheer malice directed at the investigators mirrored the exact tactics that had been used against the Duchess of Sussex for years, offering a rare, behind-the-scenes glimpse into the relentless psychological pressure that can be exerted when a coordinated group decides to completely destroy an individual's digital reputation. Yet, despite the overwhelming data and the clear evidence of tactical coordination, the most perplexing and genuinely bizarre aspect of the entire situation remained the total absence of a clear, identifiable ultimate objective. In traditional disinformation campaigns or political psychological operations, there is typically a discernible motive, such as influencing a major national election, driving financial profit, or destabilizing a corporate competitor. But as Ellie Hall and other investigative journalists dug deeper into the background of this specific Twitter campaign, they struggled to find any underlying financial or geopolitical agenda that could explain the immense time, energy, and coordination invested by these operators. There were no hidden monetization schemes, no links to organized political lobbies, and no obvious financial rewards for maintaining this relentless digital assault. The campaign seemed to exist purely for the sake of destruction, driven by an incredibly intense, localized animosity that defied conventional logical analysis. This lack of an obvious motive made the phenomenon even more deeply unsettling to media experts, as it suggested that the modern internet has given rise to entirely new forms of organized, collective malice that operate purely on hatred and the shared desire to inflict maximum psychological harm on their targets. As the investigation by Bot Sentinel progressed, the initial mystery regarding the complete lack of a conventional motive began to give way to a much more practical and, frankly, lucrative reality. When independent media experts and data analysts expanded their research beyond primary microblogging sites and started examining broader video sharing networks, they discovered that this coordinated campaign had successfully evolved into a self-sustaining, highly profitable cottage industry. The operators behind these 83 core accounts were not just screaming into a digital void for their own personal amusement. They had built a highly synchronized pipeline that funneled massive waves of outrage directly toward dedicated video channels and monetized blogs. In this digital economy, outrage equals engagement, and engagement translates directly into substantial advertising revenue. Every time a fabricated rumor or a heavily manipulated image went viral on text-based platforms, it drove hundreds of thousands of curious users to click on specific monetized links, creating a massive influx of cash for the creators of the hostile content. Estimates from media watchdogs suggested that the top channels feeding off this specific cycle of hostility were generating thousands of dollars a month in pure ad revenue, effectively turning the systematic character assassination of the Duchess of Sussex into a commercial enterprise where racism, sensationalism, and manufactured controversy were the primary economic drivers. This realization cast the entire narrative in a completely different light, revealing that the true driving force behind the campaign was a deeply cynical calculation rather than an untargeted explosion of random human emotion. The people executing these attacks understood the exact psychological triggers of the internet public, and they deliberately manufactured the most divisive content possible because they knew it would yield the highest financial returns. The traditional view of internet trolls as isolated individuals venting their personal frustrations in a basement was completely shattered by this evidence of a structured, profit-driven industry that weaponized human psychology for financial gain. It also highlighted a systemic flaw in the broader monetization models of major social media conglomerates, which inherently reward high user engagement, regardless of whether that engagement is driven by educational content or by highly toxic, coordinated harassment campaigns. By allowing these channels to monetize manufactured hate, the platforms had accidentally created a powerful financial incentive for the continuous persecution of high-profile individuals, transforming digital spaces into a hostile environment where cruelty is openly rewarded by the system. The broader implications of these findings reached far beyond the immediate boundaries of the British royal circle, sparking an intense global conversation regarding the absolute vulnerability of the modern information ecosystem. If a small group of 83 accounts could so easily manipulate platform algorithms to simulate a massive public movement and dominate the digital narrative surrounding a globally recognized duchess, the exact same tactics could easily be deployed to manipulate public opinion on far more critical global matters. Media scholars and technology experts pointed out that the structural mechanics of this specific harassment campaign were virtually identical to the sophisticated tactics used by hostile entities to interfere in democratic processes, spread medical misinformation, and destabilize public trust in foundational institutions. The investigation effectively provided the public with an accessible, highly visible case study of how easily the digital world can be distorted by a small, disciplined group of hidden operators, forcing society to confront the uncomfortable reality that much of what we perceive as organic public consensus on the internet is actually the result of highly deliberate artificial engineering. To fully comprehend the magnitude of this situation, it is essential to look at the unique background of the primary figures who stepped forward to expose this network, most notably Christopher Bowsey. Long before he turned his attention to the specific patterns of online hostility surrounding the royal family, Bowsey had established a reputation as a highly capable tech entrepreneur with a deep focus on tracking digital manipulation. He originally founded Bot Sentinel in 2018, drawing inspiration from his extensive observations of coordinated disinformation campaigns that had severely disrupted major public events and democratic elections around the world. His primary objective was to build an independent, nonpartisan platform that could utilize advanced machine learning models and sophisticated data analytics to identify inauthentic behavior, toxic trolls, and automated bot networks in real time. Over the years, his organization had successfully tracked and exposed massive network manipulations involving a wide array of public issues, ranging from the spreading of false election data to the organized targeting of prominent public figures and sports professionals. His work had always been grounded in the firm belief that internet users have a fundamental right to engage in healthy, transparent discourse without being subjected to hidden manipulation by coordinated groups working behind the scenes. Wikipedia showed too, when Bowsey's team applied their proprietary machine learning algorithms to the data surrounding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, they were not looking to take sides in a public dispute, but were simply following the anomalies appearing in their automated tracking systems. The algorithm they developed evaluates accounts based on their similarity to known rule-breaking profiles, generating a toxicity score from 0 to 100% based on behavioral patterns rather than the specific viewpoints expressed. The fact that their objective, data-driven methodology pointed so decisively to a tiny group of coordinated operators provided an undeniable piece of empirical evidence in a conversation that had previously been dominated by subjective opinions and emotional debates. For Bowsey, the investigation became one of the most high-profile chapters of his professional career, ultimately leading to his appearance in major documentary series where he explained to a global audience how the fabric of digital reality can be manipulated by a handful of dedicated accounts. Despite facing an endless barrage of personal attacks and legal threats from the very networks he exposed, his commitment to transparency remained unshaken, serving as a powerful example of the critical role that independent digital investigators play in defending the integrity of the modern internet. Wikipedia, the journalistic side of this revelation, was brought to light by Ellie Hall, a veteran media professional who had spent years operating as a senior reporter and official royal correspondent for BuzzFeed News. Throughout her career, Hall had developed a deep, highly nuanced understanding of the complex relationship between the traditional British media apparatus, public relations strategies, and the rapidly changing world of digital media platforms. Her reporting had long highlighted the stark, often distant contrast in how different members of the royal family were treated by mainstream outlets, meticulously documenting how identical actions taken by different individuals were framed in completely opposite ways depending on the prevailing public narrative. When she collaborated with data analysts to break the story of the coordinated Twitter campaign, her writing provided the vital context needed to transform raw statistical data into a compelling human narrative that exposed the real-world consequences of digital warfare. Her investigative work demonstrated that the online hostility was not just an isolated digital phenomenon, but was actively feeding back into the mainstream media cycle, creating a dangerous feedback loop where fabricated internet rumors were continuously elevated into legitimate national headlines. Ultimately, the complete story of this investigation serves as a profound warning about the current state of our interconnected world and the hidden forces that shape the information we consume every single day. The definitive exposure of the 83 accounts did not completely erase the negativity from the internet, but it forever stripped away its mask of legitimacy, ensuring that the public could no longer view the overwhelming online hostility as an authentic reflection of widespread public sentiment. It proved that the digital landscape has become a complex battlefield where public perception is a manufactured commodity, and where the line between genuine human expression and calculated algorithmic manipulation has been dangerously blurred. As we navigate an era dominated by rapid technological advancement and changing media formats, the lessons learned from this landmark investigation remain more relevant than ever. They remind us that behind the chaotic noise of our daily social media feeds, there are always structural patterns, hidden motivations, and deliberate agendas at play, requiring us to maintain a constant state of critical awareness whenever we step into the vast, unpredictable, and endlessly fascinating world of online information.